Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to our first virtual WashU Built Environment Network event. We are so thankful to be able to further our network despite the challenges resulting from the pandemic. I'm coming to you from the elevator of Rev360, Rhino's newest office development. My name is Matt Bernstein, and I am the co-chair of this network along with Avik Guha. While I am the one moderating this event, Avik worked tirelessly behind the scenes to help this virtual property tour, panel discussion, and networking session come together. He filmed the short video virtual tour of Rev360 that we will air in just a moment, which features Jerry Blocher, one of our panelists and a developer of Rev360. To those of you that completed our Built Environment Network survey, thank you. It validated that not only that there is enthusiasm for this network, but that you all wanted us to push forward with more programming despite our inability to hold in-person events. So before we jump into Rev360, I just want to take a quick opportunity to speak a little bit more about the WashU Built Environment Network. We created this group to foster networking for the Denver, Boulder, and Colorado WashU community interested in architecture, construction, engineering, real estate, and allied fields. Through this professional network, we plan to host 2 events per year. We are part of the larger WashU National Real Estate Network and can connect with alumni, parents, and students in all areas of real estate, including architecture, engineering, development, design, brokerage, insurance, finance, law, and among others through our LinkedIn group, which will be provided in the chat function, as well as in the networking contact information following the event. With that, it's time to jump into the meat of our programming, Rev360. Having toured the building myself, I can tell you this real estate development project is an impressive example of modern office development in Denver's hottest neighborhood, Rhino, or for those of you not from Denver, River North. Rev360 is Denver's newest Class AA office and retail property in Denver's Rhino neighborhood. Rev360 sits along Brighton Boulevard in the heart of Rhino. It's a 5-minute walk from the train station, and it's close to numerous amenities, including restaurants, bars, apartments, grocery and liquor stores, a bank, and even a doggy daycare. Lots on both sides of Rev360 are currently under development into trendy new full-service hotels. The building is a 5-story office building with ground floor retail and an adjacent parking garage connected to the building over the alleyway via pedestrian bridges on 2 levels. The office levels were built with columns only along the building core and at exterior walls, mostly leaving the structure clean for modern tenant finish with exposed structural ceilings. Every level features connectivity to the outdoors and the thriving Rhino neighborhood. Rev360's amenities include a tenant fitness studio, secured bicycle storage, a dog walk area, and a very abundant 4 per 1,000 parking ratio. As you will see in the video, Rev360 is also an art destination in and of itself. All right, Mary Ray, you're up. Let's go ahead and play the video of Rev360 so that our attendees can see Rev360 just for themselves.
Starting in 2018, the city made over $40 million worth of improvements to the Brighton Boulevard corridor. Those improvements sparked hundreds of millions of dollars of private development. Among those private developments is the newest Class A office building in Rhino, Rev360, here at 3600 Brighton Boulevard. Rev360 has 140,000 square feet of office over the 2nd through 5th floors and 30,000 square foot of ground floor retail. Originally, we also had 240 parking spaces below grade until we elected to move the parking across the alley. So instead of digging down 3 stories into troubled groundwater and soil conditions underneath our office building, we elected to move the parking garage across the alley so that we could build both buildings above grade only and avoid the underground challenges. So in this parking garage, we have 5 levels, 520 parking spaces. This will serve the needs not only of our building, but of the neighborhood, because there are several other buildings here in the neighborhood that are in need of parking. The parking garage is connected to the office building on 2 levels via a pedestrian bridge across the alley.
One of the many ways that we elected to blend with the Rhino neighborhood is to be involved with the art scene here. We made a significant investment in art on the garage, commissioning 2 4.5-story murals for the north and south ends of the parking garage. by an incredible artist named Oliver Vernon. We commissioned the art that's behind me here in our main lobby from a young and upcoming artist here in Rhino, just across the street, named Ramel. And we commissioned special art for the elevator walls from a local artist named Amy Thornton. We also have another significant outdoor piece that is to be announced. All of our office floors offer significant glass with great views of the area, wide spans between columns, allowing for open office layouts. And something unique about our project is that we managed to avoid using spray fireproofing on most of the structure, allowing for modern office finishes with exposed structural ceilings.
One unique feature of Rev360 is that there is at least one balcony on every level. The balconies offer great connectivity to the outdoors and to the neighborhood.
Thank you again, Avik and Jerry, for putting that video virtual tour together. I know I, for one, would definitely love the office with that view of downtown. I personally just think that video gives our viewers an excellent vision of the property, even though we're not there to tour the property in person, which was our original plan for this event. But again, if you have any questions related to the video or things that come up in our panel, rather than throwing them in the chat section, let's just save those for our networking sessions that will following our panel discussion. So with that, I want to introduce our panelists for the evening as we begin our panel discussion. So first up, we have Jerry Blocher. He was a developer of the project. Jerry is a WashU Business School alum from 1994. Was not only that, but also the co-founder for our Built Environment Network. And he is co-chair of the WashU Denver Elliott Society Committee. He's a St. Louis native, and he was an in-house real estate developer for Haselden Construction. Also on our panel today, we have Ben Blanchard. He was the architect for the building. He's a principal architect for Anderson Masondale. Ben has a very impressive background. He was the part of the architectural team on the $350 million Hotel and Transit Center at DIA, the Aerospace Engineering Sciences Building at the Metropolitan State University of Denver, and the Sput Terra Building at CSU's National Western Center. Last up, we have Jamie Roop. He's a Rockstar leasing broker for Jones Lang LaSalle, or JLL. He really specializes in leasing in the central business district, transit-oriented developments, and ground-up developments with significant building repositioning assignments. Not only that, but he's also a specialist in emerging neighborhoods, including both this Rhino neighborhood as well as the Lower Highlands. So with that, I'd like to give our panelists a second to introduce themselves, and maybe why don't you tell us and the team a little bit about what your role is on the project, and maybe a little bit more about yourself.
Very good. Well, I'll jump in. I'm Jerry Blocher, and you heard a little bit about my relationship to WashU. I am with Haselden Construction, but I'm an in-house real estate developer. So we find and sponsor and develop projects just like any other real estate developer. We hire ourselves to build when we can, but we don't always. Sometimes we hire a third-party GC. My involvement in this project was pretty much from day one, kind of managing all of the underwriting and processing of the design and entitlement and construction and interface with the lender and the city and property management and kind of helping to make sure to get the thing done. I wanted to throw in my apologies. I know we're tight on time. I want to throw in a couple of things very briefly. Number one, I apologize that we've ended up putting this like right on top of the beginning of the Cardinals game. For those of you good St. Louis natives out there, we promised to get you out in time to see the bulk of that game. But I also wanted to comment on the Built Environment Network, which I'm excited about going on. The idea is to give some networking, some professional benefit to your relationship to WashU. I know one of the things I learned just as a result of this event is our commissioning agent was a group called Iconergy. Well, I learned 2 days ago that the president of Iconergy is a WashU grad, and presumably, Doug, you're watching tonight. So that's pretty cool to make those kinds of connections through the group. And we hope there's more and more of that as this group picks up momentum.
Maybe I'll go next. Ben Blanchard, again, principal at Anderson Mason Dale. Our firm does commercial, higher ed, K-12 work throughout the Rocky Mountain West. My role on the Rev360 project, I led the design efforts within our office and worked with our consultant team as well as closely with Jerry and Jamie, kind of driving the design vision for the project and getting the project through the entitlement process.
All right, Jamie.
I'm Jamie Roop, and I'm a leasing broker with JLL. I've been leasing office buildings in downtown Denver and the perimeter markets for approximately 15 years, and started working in Rhino in about 2012. We acquired some land. Ultimately, the land that this building sits on was formerly a machine shop that we acquired and worked with the owner to relocate from. Ben and Jerry and the team nodded to the history of the site by including some of the features of that old building in this new building. But it's been a tremendous run. Rhino neighborhood has moved really far, really fast. And in the last development cycle, all of the new office buildings that have been built in Rhino represent a new chapter for this neighborhood, which used to be really heavy industrial uses.
Great, Jamie. Is there any more background or detail on the Rhino neighborhood that you can maybe share with the group here?
Sure. One of the unique features about Rhino is identified by the historic users within the neighborhood. Pepsi Bottling Company, Coca-Cola, a taxi depot, the regional transportation department, all have a presence in Rhino, and that's because it sits proximate to downtown, but also at the intersection of our major highways. So the access of the neighborhood is really great. And then in addition to that, the city and government entities around Denver have spent nearly $3 billion of public money improving the neighborhood. Public parks, pedestrian bridges over train tracks, a train station that connects the downtown core to the Denver International Airport, streetscape improvements, as Jerry mentioned in the video. So there's a lot of features of Rhino that were really great before and have really been enhanced. And then the last note about Rhino is it's got a pretty unique building stock of adaptive reuse warehouses. And one of the catchphrases that a lot of young tenants, are not interested in occupying their father's office building. And this sort of sits at the intersection of that because it's a great Class A modern office building, but in a really cool emerging neighborhood.
Yeah, for sure. So how did you have the foresight to think to acquire the parcel? Obviously, you had to have some vision to see that there was an element of speculation involved in acquiring the land in the first place.
You got it. One of the key catalysts for the redevelopment of lots of neighborhoods is public transit. And when we became active acquiring land in this neighborhood, it was before the train was active, although that's a very long process for which the RTD and related entities has to go through to get the train line going. So we knew that it was going to happen, and it was just a matter of time. So the public transit was one of the key features. The really unique building stock that I mentioned, warehouses that are great adaptive reuse inventory, its proximity to downtown. It's actually relatively close. You could walk it. And then just sort of the art districts. Bohemians are a great barometer for future growth in neighborhoods. And the Rhino Art District is really on par with others like Wynwood in Miami and others, Rhino is got a lot of really authentic culture, artistic, and food and beverage and artisan distilleries, things like that. So it's sort of you could see it coming. It took a while. It's been about a decade, as I mentioned, since we started here, but it's moved very far, very fast.
For sure, yeah. Since graduating WashU in 2004 and moving to Denver, it's been really fun to see the development that's happened along the Brighton Boulevard corridor and the significant increase in property values there. Okay, so the next question, Jerry, kind of wanted to hit you up this time. Can you tell us a little bit about who the partners are in the deal in Rev360 and how everything came together?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the project is very much relationship driven, and the partnership is very much partnership driven. We have separate relationships. So Jamie mentioned that he's our office broker, but he's also one of our partners. He and two other guys run a group called Tributary Real Estate here in town, and Haselden has relationships with each of them sort of separately from their separate pasts as well as their combined past. And those guys have been active in this neighborhood in kind of that speculation. And we have another partner whose name is Rob Cohen, runs a IMA insurance here in town that we've all got relationships as well. And there were several different angles of the conversations, and that group ended up over the course of a couple of days having the key conversations, and the partnership was born. Later on, we added a couple of guys that are from New York that are kind of new to our group, and that was also, and I think we've got a relationship with those guys now that perhaps might move forward beyond the project. But I think a lot of what we get done is through people that we know, people that we've known. We like to do projects on a relationship basis, not just necessarily on a single deal basis.
Sure. So what does the capital stack look like on the project?
So the money, of course, that group of core investors that I mentioned has provided the general partner financing for the project. For our limited partner equity, we went out to friends and family of all of those folks. There's enough folks in that core sponsor partnership that there's a pretty long list of folks in address books. So we had friends and family money for that equity. And then in kind of a unique move, we found a lender that would loan us just over 80% of our cost on a non-recourse basis. Now, we paid for that on our rate, but felt as if that was an appropriate move with the project to manage everybody's risk.
Okay. And then I know I'm curious, can you tell me why the building and the development is called Rev360 in the first place?
We spent some time. We actually hired a branding agent. Anderson Mason Dale was really helpful, and we hired a branding agent, and they brought in a bunch of ideas, and I've forgotten most of them, I think. But frankly, the idea that one coming out of that was Revolution 360. And, I am pretty lazy when it comes to writing things down. I abbreviate everything. And I'm not necessarily the guy that made this happen, but eventually a whole group just reverted to Rev360. We figured it was easier and a little catchier. So here we are.
Very cool. I love the abbreviation idea.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, Ben.
I'm sorry. Can I just briefly, part of the reason the Rev360, the Revolution 360 came in is it was sort of a reference back to the machine shop that used to exist here on the site. And it felt like it sort of tied in the industrial revolution theme, the 360, which ties to views and to kind of to the foresight of the industry. And we felt like it encompassed a lot of great things. So sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no worries. It's interesting to hear that tie back to the original use of the property. So Ben, as architect on the project, maybe tell us a little bit about your guiding principles and what your process looks like and how you kind of came up with the concept of what the building would actually look like and the functionality behind it.
Sure, yeah. 4 years ago, when we were first sort of immersing ourselves in this project, the neighborhood was a lot different just those 4 years ago. And Jamie and Jerry kind of alluded to the history of the neighborhood, having this sort of industrial kind of getting some work done quality to it. And so we were really struck by the sort of layered patina and this kind of textured patina of the neighborhood, and wanted to sort of find a way to celebrate that, even though we were designing a Class A office building that also needed to be, you know, a highly attractive and competitive product on the market. And so we developed this notion of the billboard. Another aspect Jamie alluded to was that this corridor, while it's being redeveloped, is a really primary gateway into town. And so there was this whole network of signs and billboards, from Benjamin Moore Paints to Gold Star Sausage, and all this sort of pattern of signage. And so we wanted to build on that and really celebrate that history with this really bold billboard that cantilevers out towards Brighton to form this really powerful street edge. That's something that the Brighton corridor has kind of, as it's grown in, it's taken some time to build that street edge and pedestrian realm. And so that was probably the biggest driver. The project also sits with this sort of great view. You can see it over Jamie's shoulder there, of the skyline. And so the whole southern edge of the building, looking back towards town, we really wanted to animate with people. And so that on every level, there's a balcony that you can kind of get out to from each level. It brings activity and energy out to the street, and it's kind of your first introduction to the project, seeing all those balconies as you're coming from downtown. And so that was another important driver. Certainly the mix of amenities as a way to differentiate the product. So the lobby has this kind of wonderful art component. There's a fitness center, bike storage, certainly the terraces, and especially there's a community terrace up on the top level that's really generous and can host large events. And so that was a really important part of kind of making the pitch for why this place is special from a tenant's perspective. Jerry also alluded to we wanted to kind of celebrate that raw industrial quality, and we were able to do that by exposing all of the structural steel, which I think is a real special part of the project. And we had to use a podium assembly in order to do that. So effectively building the ground floor as a fully fire rated up to a 3-hour separation. And that really let us from there up build this kind of unfireproofed exposed steel to kind of really create that raw industrial quality on the interior as well. So those were, a few of the key points.
Very cool. I can imagine that our engineers on the group here will certainly appreciate the exposed office floor plates and the value that adds to any potential tenancy. So one really cool feature of this building is actually the parking garage, because it actually sits across the alleyway from the building. So Jerry, I thought maybe you could provide a little backstory on that and speak to how the parking garage is connected to the building itself.
Sure. Briefly, we talked about in the video, our original plan was to have parking below grade underneath this lot. And we had 240 spaces, roughly a 1.6 spaces per 1,000 square feet, which we thought in this neighborhood, especially given the proximity to transportation, would be sufficient. But in our early leasing exercises and talking to a couple of our early potential tenants, we found that they were asking for 3 or 4 spaces per 1,000. And of course, digging underground is hard to do. It's expensive to do, and we didn't want to go any deeper. It just gets more and more costly the deeper that you go. And then Jamie and his group at Tributary, through a whole nother deal, which is probably beyond the scope of this call, came up with the site across the alley became available. And we were sitting there in a meeting and got to scratching on that and determined that we could buy that lot and build 240 spaces above grade at the same cost that we were building 240 spaces below grade on this project. And we would avoid the environmental issues we talked about, and we'd have more dirt in the deal, which is a good thing. And we would avoid the risks of digging and the schedule impact of digging. So we elected to do that and use that as an opportunity. Then, as I mentioned, we built 520 spaces, because we wanted to be able to meet this higher than expected parking demand from our potential tenants, and also recognize that in the neighborhood, there's a general lack of parking. As a, for instance, the hotel that's being built just that direction is building 4 parking spaces, and you didn't miss here. It's not 14, it's not 40, it's 4 parking spaces, and there are a number of other developments that are short on parking, and so we're in discussions with a number of surrounding places about providing their parking for them. So it felt like an opportunity to capitalize on a need that the neighborhood had.
Yeah, I've been feeling that parking is going to be worth its weight in gold. So
hopefully.
Very cool. Well, as you can see, I'm sitting, in the elevator here. I've got a really impressive piece of art behind me. Ben has some lobby art behind his background, and art, Jamie spoke to art and the importance of art in the neighborhood. Obviously, you guys have a very sophisticated art program at Rev360. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's a key piece. We looking in the neighborhood and wanting to tie into the neighborhood as well as we could, art, I think, early emerged as a priority for us. We engaged a local group named 9.arts, who's an art consultant, and worked with them to select 4 artists for the project. 3 of those 4 artists are local and kind of up and coming artists that we were glad to have become a part of our project. Really, our hope, our expectation is that that our tie into the arts is unique and is a bit of a calling card for our project in terms of being a differentiator from other office properties in the neighborhood and in town. But anybody that's on the call, if you get a chance, just driving by the building, you can see the garage art, if anybody when times are better, wants a walkthrough on the inside to see some of the other art, and to see Matt sitting in the elevator, I'd be happy to accommodate that.
Awesome. Well, I know that sustainability is a hot topic these days, and Ben, just kind of wanted to hear what the considerations were around LEED certification for the building.
Sure, yeah. So the office building, we were able to achieve LEED Silver. I think one interesting thing about speculative office projects like this is there is a first cost driver to them, and so decisions have to be financially defensible, and then a lot of the kind of long-term operating costs are tenant responsibilities. And so we did make some kind of high efficiency selections to save pushing 30% energy savings, but at some point we also had to put some responsibility on the future tenants, and so we developed a really comprehensive set of tenant guidelines to make sure that the highly efficient systems that we put in place, you kind of get the value out of them in the future through the tenants. And so that was one key piece to the sustainability agenda. And then the garage actually didn't have enough occupiable square footage to qualify to pursue LEED. And so we did not go down that path for the garage.
Jamie, I know everyone is very curious how leasing is going on the asset. Can you speak a little bit about what your strategy is for both the retail space and the office space?
You got it. There's 2 lenses through which we have to look. One is pre-COVID and one is post-COVID. Going into the first quarter of last year, or this year, it felt to me like we'd be 100% leased at delivery, which is occurred now in August. All of the office requirements really across the city, the whole metro area, and really nationally, everything's sort of been put on hold. We do have good interest despite that. Right now, we're in dialogue with a 60,000 square foot media company and a 30,000 square foot marketing company and a 30,000 square foot medical technology company. We actually don't have enough room to make all of those deals, but there's a good chance we won't make all of them, so that's okay. The demand in this neighborhood has been primarily driven by tech companies. Really, that's an overarching theme to the demand in Denver in general. Denver historically was or is a oil and gas town, but we've diversified greatly since the boom of the late 70s, early 80s, and now have a really diverse economy. At the end of the day, new construction, really the hypothesis is the war for talent, and companies across all businesses, all business sectors are affected by that, whether it's a law firm or a financial services company, an architect or a tech company. Pre-COVID, we had a like 2-3% unemployment rate, and so there was really growth from all sectors. Right now, everybody's just on pause. I think that the post-COVID world in Denver is going to be a lot like it was pre-COVID, which is lots of in-migration and growth from all business sectors. On the retail front, this building's got 30,000 square foot of retail, which is quite a bit. We've had dialogue with companies like Urban Format Target, CVS, destination retailers like golf simulators, lots of fitness, bars and restaurants, etc. Again, the challenge is right now, everybody's sort of on hold. And so we don't actually have as great a progress as I'd like to report. The other note on the retail front, in Rhino, there's a magazine in Denver called 5280, which identifies the top 25 restaurants in our 7-county metro area, which goes from Boulder to Centennial, very large geography and lots of people. And within that, the top 25 restaurants in Denver in the year 2019, 9 of them were based in Rhino. So one neighborhood alone has 9 of the top 25 restaurants in the whole 7-county metro area. We also have in Rhino, there's 5 music venues. One of them, when Jerry was talking about the parking structure, is located a few blocks north of our building. It's the 4,000 person Mission Ballroom, which is one of the newest state-of-the-art music venues in the country. Most of the music venues indoor in Denver are like converted theaters from the middle 1900s. And so having a new modern music venue in the neighborhood is great. In addition to that, I mentioned the restaurants, the music venues, distilleries, breweries, bars, wineries, all kinds of stuff. Like Rhino is really an entertainment destination. And so I anticipate that once we get back to leasing momentum, we'll have a combination of those types of tenants on the retail.
Very cool. Well, in light of the pandemic, I know everyone's been a little bit concerned how you might maybe have adjusted your marketing strategy. It appears too that you guys have some kind of health and well-being, air quality, better air quality in the building. Can you speak to that and maybe a little bit about the property management at the building?
You got it. In the post-pandemic world, a lot of attention is being paid to the health and wellness of a building. As Ben mentioned, LEED Silver certified, and then also just being a new construction asset, you've got modern HVAC systems, new ductwork that's obviously not got any thing that's traveled through it yet. We've got, in addition to that, the attached structured parking that you can park on levels 3 and 4 and walk directly across the bridge from the parking garage into your space, means people don't have to take elevators. There's touch-free entry points so that you can come in and really not be touching buttons to get in and out of a building. I should caveat all of this with, I believe that once we have a healthcare solution, there's not going to be as much of a concern about, not touching things or not riding in elevators with people. But with that said, a building like this with a 4 per 1,000 parking ratio, also the folks who might have concern about public transit. This is not like the underground New York subways or the L train in Chicago where, people are concerned about the level of density. Some people think people won't be traveling by train as much. we're positioned to capture demand, although I believe that public transit will continue to be the preferred method of travel for the young millennial workforce. People won't be too concerned about riding in elevators, but in the meantime, this building sort of is built to address all of that. Although not intentionally, we are well positioned to capture demand from tenants who might have concern about those issues. On the property management front, JLL is the facilities management team. We manage about 10 million square feet in Denver, and there's all kinds of protocols around operating a building with more frequent custodial services and hand sanitizer stations throughout the building and all of that stuff. The building is tremendous right now. It's just like, it's got that new car smell to it because no one's, yet occupied it. So it's very appealing to the post-pandemic tenant.
That's great. I definitely foresee some leasing success in your future. So with that, we've only got a couple of minutes left, but I do want to touch on a couple general questions just for anyone on the panel. Feel free to jump in. What's maybe the biggest challenge you've had to overcome on working on this project?
I can offer one, I guess. One interesting thing from a design and entitlements perspective was because this neighborhood was such a focus of the city to drive development, they kind of halfway through our design process, they adopted a whole new design overlay district into the zoning code. And it came at a time when the office building was effectively fully designed and the garage was sort of in its infancy. And so kind of midstream there, we had to course correct and absorb all of this new zoning code language into our design and make some changes to kind of merge what we had received approval from the city on with this new language. And so I think we were able to do that in a graceful and somewhat seamless way, but it was certainly an unforeseen series of investigations that we had to kind of hurry up with when that new language came on board.
Sure, yeah. There's never an easy path forward, always in development. So,
I'll jump in briefly relative to the greatest difficulty. I think I'd say that we put together a team for this project really of the best of the best across the board, from the development team, the partners, the brokers, the designers. We pretty carefully selected the folks that were on board, and we got everybody sitting in the right seat and firing on all cylinders. And I'd say that we probably thought through in advance, pre-planned most of the things about this project in a way that made it go relatively smoothly once we got things kicked off. There was a lot of pre-planning, a lot of over-the-top sort of evaluation and thinking early on in the project, and I think that kind of paid off. So I think what that paid off in is a reduction in challenges down the road by putting in the time and the effort up front to plan it and do it right.
So then would it be safe to say your favorite aspect of the building is the team that you worked with on it?
Yes, absolutely. No, there's no question. Yeah, for sure.
My own question. What are your thoughts, Jamie? And what are your favorite part of the project or being a part of the project?
This team has done this. This is the fourth asset in a boutique office building fashion that Ed Haselden and his team have developed. And they're really good at sort of working the fastball. The delivery, the design, the construction, everything has really been seamless, on time, on budget, and the physical condition of the building is tremendous. One of the things that I like the most, when we were interviewing architects, Ben and his team's presentation was the very first one that we were in. There were, I think, 6 that day, Jerry? Can't remember.
I thought we did 5. Yeah, 5 or 6. Yeah. All day. It was all day.
Yeah, but we got out of the first presentation with Ben and his team, and we could have just stopped there. They were so far and away more prepared and thoughtful about the history of the neighborhood and the opportunity to celebrate that with the design of this building. And there's really being involved from the outset. You take for granted some of the details that are all very intentional. Everything is done with intention in any case, but in this case in particular, just their knowledge of the neighborhood and the design and the feedback that I get from folks that see the building, tour the building, and it's tremendous. So it's a really, really great product. The biggest challenge is out of my control right now, and that's just the demand spigot has turned off. I wish we could have been maybe 6 or even 12 months earlier because the economy was hitting on all cylinders. We'd have been full and leased and occupied before this pandemic hit. And again, that's just sort of out of our control at the moment, but we're working through it. And I think it's a generational asset that will do fine. It's just going to take a little longer.
Great. Well, I think those are some very excellent wrap-up remarks. So I know that all of our attendees are going to have a chance to kind of fire questions at you guys here in our individual breakout sessions here in just a moment. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and conclude our panel discussion for the time being. So in just a minute, again, you guys can, we'll exit this panel and you guys can jump into our separate networking sessions. But before we conclude, I do just want to give a big shout out and thank you to our 3 panelists. Jerry, thank you for not only the tour, but for putting this whole event together and your help in founding the WashU Built Environment Network. I know this is a great professional benefit, not only for myself, but for all those involved. Ben and Jamie, thank you. It's been great working with you on this, and we really appreciate your jumping in. It's a very successful project, and I wish you the best of luck. Avik, my co-chair, thank you for all of your hard work that you put into all of this. You're truly a great technical expert and videographer, so thank you. And then Mary Ray Perry from WashU, thank you for help pushing us forward and for coordinating this event and helping to bring everything to fruition. If anyone out there has any ideas or thoughts on future events, we'd love to hear from you. So please do not hesitate to reach out to me. Mary Ray will be sending out the contact information for not only our panelists, but also for me and Avik. So feel free to reach out to us following the event. And we would love to have you guys either participate in the Built Environment Network with us directly, or just hopefully see you and connect with you in our own professional networks outside of this. We really are doing this for all of you to help provide an additional benefit to being a WashU alum. So with that, I just wish that you all please stay healthy out there, and I look forward to our next event. So with that, thank you very much for attending, and I will see you in our breakout sessions. Take care and have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you.